Joni Mitchell is one of the first artists I remember discovering as a child. My mom had a cassette tape of Blue in our car, and I loved sitting in the back seat singing along with my sister to Big Yellow Taxi, Chelsea Morning, and Carrie. All my life, I have carried Joni Mitchell's poetic music with me as a source of comfort and wisdom. Her lyrics have resonated with me over the years, sustaining me through life's vicissitudes, falling in love, falling out of love, leaving California on a jet plane, though Joni didn't actually write that one. The 78-year-old legendary folk singer has known her share of dark times. In 2015, she suffered a brain aneurysm, leaving her unable to speak or walk. She stopped performing and was seldom seen in public, as she spent years relearning these skills. So this past summer, when Mitchell returned to the stage at the Newport Folk Festival, it was a very big deal. There she was, with her long white braids, wearing shades, a snazzy blue beret, and a big smile, slowly walking out onto the stage, leaning on a cane with a caregiver at her side. And there she was, sitting regal as a queen as the crowd roared, giving her a standing ovation. Then she stood up, went to the mic, and began to sing Both Sides Now. Bows and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way. But now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. Her voice was different, lower, throatier. She couldn't reach those high notes anymore. Her articulation was slower, more deliberate, making the song all the more poignant. Then the guitars launched into a pounding rhythm, and Joni began to rock out to Big Yellow Taxi, singing along with Brandi Carlile, almost 40 years her junior. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? I watched Joni on stage, very good. I watched Joni on stage from YouTube, from afar, surrounded by an admiring community of artists and fans. I saw the kavod that Brandi Carlile gave her as she carefully adjusted her colleague's mic and lent her strong young voice to Joni's biggest hits, helping her hit those high notes. And I thought of these beautiful words from the Torah, Mipnei seva takum. Before a white-haired elder, you must rise. These days, we don't often rise, literally or figuratively, before those who are elderly, ill, or disabled. Often we look away, and those who struggle with infirmity often avoid the spotlight, uncomfortable about exposing their frailty. They know that our culture doesn't celebrate older, imperfect, or failing bodies. We value youth, strength, and physical prowess. We're inundated with advice about how, with the right diet and exercise regimen, we might just live forever. And for quite a while, if we're lucky, we can embrace that dream. Most children take their bodies for granted, assuming they'll always do what they're supposed to do. Cuts and bruises will swiftly heal. Tummy aches will go away. A good night's sleep will restore our strength. Then comes the day, and it can come at any age, when we discover that our bodies follow their own stubborn logic, and they don't always behave as we want them to. Gradually or suddenly, we're beset by injuries, aches, and pains that don't go away, trouble with close-up vision, a sudden hearing loss, problems with body parts or organs to which we never used to give a thought, shoulders, knees, hips, kidneys, ovaries, stomach, heart. Now things are different. Our body is no longer our obedient servant, perfectly doing its job so we can focus on other things. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Sometimes this awareness comes to us in a way that pierces the heart. Writer John J. Clayton talks about such an experience in an essay published in the Jewish Review of Books in spring 2019. The essay begins like this. Here's what I thought was in store for me as I grew old. I'd stay clear, strong, and energized through my 80s, keep writing stories, and then I'd slow down and my heart would begin to give out, a stammering motor, catching, stumbling, dimming, sunlight blocked by cloud. And there'd be a time when I'd say goodbye, goodbye to wife and children and friends, and then rational consciousness would slip away. I'd fade into oblivion, or better, be enfolded into radiance, the radiance that emanates through all the worlds, and I, barely I anymore, would feel the diffusion of my individual light as it spread and spread. But no, as it turns out, that's not what's in store. For in my early 80s, Parkinson's disease has settled on me, a vulture. There's no cure. This is the beginning. The Parkinson's won't kill me. I keep getting told this, as if it should comfort me. It won't kill me, but it has already submerged my life. I shake, I tremble, I have a hard time swallowing. So I drool, I've begun to stumble. But that's the least of it. Worse, I become exhausted, wake exhausted, nap often. I'm usually half asleep. If I take a pill, I can obtain an hour of writing, slow, muddy writing on my laptop. And when I speak with friends or in a group, it often feels as if my brain is underwater. Everything slows. I reach for an idea like a stutterer reaching for a word, struggling to enunciate a word, but it has disappeared. My mind feels sluggish, thick, yet empty and blank. There's silence in the room. The group, uncomfortable but wanting to wait, helps, kindly giving me time. I can feel their encouragement. I finally come up with a reduced version of my idea, lacking specifics, spoken in a guttural croaking. A frog speaks. I mug at myself in a mirror, reciting Monty Python's old gag in which a character complains at being questioned, saying, "I didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition." In bursts Michael Palin in 16th century red cape and sneers, "Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition." I know that many of us can identify with John Clayton's experience. In the past year, members of our community have suffered serious injuries or gone through surgery. Some are dealing with debilitating chronic pain, cancer treatment, fertility treatment. Some suffer the long effects of COVID. Others carry scars the world can't see as they face mental health struggles or cognitive decline. We've watched our parents or other beloved relatives and friends deal with serious health challenges. For many of us, it's been a tough year. So many things we would have done, but clouds got in the way. Recently, I was speaking with a longtime member of Bethel who over the past year has faced one serious health challenge after another. I was struck by his words. "Rabbi," he said, "this whole body is falling down on me. I feel like Job. Nobody is prepared. How do I deal with this?" He was not asking me about writing an advance directive, a will or estate plan, or even an ethical will, though all of those are important. He was asking how he could cope with his prolonged ordeal and what our Jewish tradition could offer him. Ever since that conversation, I've been thinking about what kind of answer I might give. So here is a start as we stand together at the doorway to a new year, knowing what we know about human fragility. How shall we live? First, some wisdom from John Clayton. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, but sooner or later, it arrives at our door in one form or another. There are no charmed lives or special exemptions from suffering. The universe is not arranged so that bad things will only happen to other people. Illness, injury, and loss erupt into ordinary existence without warning or reason. Even yours, even mine. So do we, and those we love. Things fall apart. We all live in mortal bodies that age, malfunction, slow down, and at some point let us down. So whatever is happening to us at the moment, we shouldn't feel singled out by a malevolent cosmos. It happens to everyone. We may feel alone, but we're not alone. Jewish tradition recognizes this fundamental truth of human life. Our sages teach in the Talmud that anyone who lives 40 days without suffering is considered to have experienced what life is like in the heavenly realm. So if you've had a good and peaceful month, consider yourself blessed. You've had a taste of paradise. The text goes on to say that suffering encompasses many forms of discomfort, including even the minor inconvenience of uncomfortable clothing. In other words, difficulties are pervasive and universal. Suffering is not an aberration, rather it's woven into the fabric of ordinary life. At any given moment, even if we're doing fine, chances are that someone close to us is not. Some people's lives look idyllic from the outside, but appearances can be deceiving. As they say in Yiddish, jeder Mensch hat sich sein Päckl. Everyone has a burden to carry. Look deep enough into any human life, and you'll discover this. All of us are dealing with something. Since everyone is dealing with some kind of trouble, we should all be gentle with each other and regard those around us with compassion. A second Jewish strategy for facing our fragility is finding personal meaning in the experience. I remember the summer I spent working as an interfaith chaplain at Stanford Hospital. Some of the patients I met were religious Christians, and they would often ask me, "What do you think God is trying to teach me through this experience?" It made me think about the first line of today's Torah reading, Elohim nisat Avraham, God put Avraham to the test. Our sages, elaborating on this verse, teach in Pirkei Avot, Asara nisyonot nidnaseh Avraham Avinu. Our patriarch Avraham was tested with 10 trials or challenges, and he withstood them all. This sort of explanation for suffering comes naturally to many religious people. We try to make sense of life's difficulties and difficult experiences by seeing them as educational opportunities, as it were, brought to us by God to test and improve our character. The biblical narrator clearly sees Akedat Yitzchak in this way. Avraham must face an unimaginably painful call from God, his duty to rise to the challenge and pass the test to God's satisfaction. And afterwards, both he and God will have learned something from the experience. Let me be clear. I don't think that illness and injury are sent to us by God in order to teach us or give us lessons or to test us. But I do find great power in another statement in the Talmud. If we see that suffering has befallen us, we should examine our deeds. I believe, as the Talmud says, that the challenges we face provide us with an opportunity for personal reflection. And sometimes, through that reflection, we can learn, grow, and find meaning. No one else can do this for us. In fact, it can be downright harmful if someone else tells us that our suffering has come to teach us about patience or gratitude or anything else. University of Virginia professor Vanessa Oakes, reflecting on her own journey through disease, writes, "My story is mine alone. It does not help when someone says that I will learn from illness, that one day I will be grateful. I know, too, that if I cannot make my experience meaningful in some fashion, it is really too trying to go on." Sometimes, a health challenge really can be a call to transformative reflection. Rabbi Elliot Kukla woke up one morning with the worst headache of his life. After many visits to doctors, he was finally diagnosed with lupus, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and complex migraines. Like most of us, he writes, I had been raised to see illness as something temporary, a stopover on the way to recovery or to death, not a place to live. But weeks, months, and then years passed, and I did not get better. Eventually, I stopped hoping to be well or even pretending that I lived in that future-heavy land of hope anymore. I stopped trying to overcome my body and started living a present-tense life in chronic illness. Along the way, he made some discoveries. As the pace of his life slowed, he found that he could appreciate sensual pleasures in a new and heightened way: sunlight outside his bedroom, his dog's velvety fur, a cool breeze in his garden, richly colored flowers. What other meaning has Rabbi Kukla found? He's come face to face with a powerful lesson. We are not independent beings. Rather, we live in a state of interdependence. He writes, "We are born needing care and die needing care, and I am no exception. At brief moments in the middle of life, we hold the illusion of independence, but we are always driving on roads we did not build, eating foods we did not pick or raise. Allowing the illusion of my own independence to drop away unmasked a fundamental truth of being human. Like many people, I had once measured my worth by my capacity to produce things and experiences, to be productive at work, share responsibilities at home, show up equally in my friendships, and rack up achievements. Being sick has been a long, slow detox from our culture's mandate that we never rest. Slowly, I found a deeper value in relationship beyond reciprocity, an unconditional love and care based in justice, and a belief that all humans deserve relationship, regardless of whether we can offer anything measurable back. We matter just as we are." Now in his mid-40s, Rabbi Kukla knows that as he ages, he will need more care. It has not been easy to accept help. He writes, "I had been fiercely independent for most of my life. Now, as fatigue gripped my body, I needed help preparing food, showering, doing laundry, managing my medications. This demanded a difficult, profoundly spiritual vulnerability." Rabbi Kukla has discovered how to experience joy in the moment, accept help, and embrace rest. Through his own capacity for reflection, he has lived out the teaching of the Zohar, the source book of Jewish mysticism. A soul learns more from suffering than from rejoicing. Such learning and growth is never easy, but it is something we might all aspire to. John Clayton is still on his Parkinson's journey, trying to learn what life has to teach him. He concludes his essay with a short, heartfelt prayer. "Dear God, help me accept what's coming to me. Help me join what's coming as to the strange music of a dance. I want to dance to the new music. You, coming through the ballroom door, teach me to dance. Be my partner in the dance." A third and final strategy for facing health challenges at any age is to see the body differently. Here too, our tradition shows us the way forward. Jewish law teaches that every morning we should recite a blessing to thank God for the wonders of the human body. We take time to acknowledge its beauty and complexity, noting that it's truly a miracle that our bodies function properly. The blessing is known as Asher Yatzar, the one who formed. Listen to the rhythm and poetry of the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah, uvaravo nekavim nekavim, chalulim chalulim, galui v'yadua lifnei chisei chavodecha, she'im yipateach echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, yafsher lehitkayem lefanecha. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar umafli la'asot. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of time and space, who fashions the human body with wisdom, creating openings, arteries, glands, and organs, marvelous in structure, intricate in design. It is known and revealed to you that should but one of them fail to function, it would be impossible to exist. Baruch atah Adonai, healer of all flesh, sustaining our bodies in wondrous ways. The Asher Yatzar is sometimes known as the bathroom blessing, because the sages of the Talmud agree that Asher Yatzar is the prayer that one should recite upon leaving the bathroom. Some people might find this amusing, though many of us eventually come to see that problems in the bathroom are no laughing matter. The prayer actually expresses profound Jewish wisdom. It is a close reading of the body, encouraging us to reflect on every wondrous detail of our physicality. It marvels at the body's everyday functioning, taking note of the nekavim, nekavim, chalulim, chalulim, literally the body's many passageways and openings, each of which might open or close at the right time to ensure that life goes on. There are times when we might struggle to recite Asher Yatzar, perhaps because we're not so happy with our bodies at the moment, But on those occasions, reciting it can be especially important. Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt shares that when she had 2 strokes in her early 30s, her relationship with this blessing changed dramatically. She writes, "It's one thing to say in the abstract that in order for me to be present before God and pray, I need a body which will keep me alive in order to do so. But the strokes brought that reality home in a new way. It is known that if one of these were to be closed where it should be open, if, for instance, a blood clot found its way again to my brain, I might not be able to be here in relationship with God. I might not be here anymore at all. I try to remember that my body is a miracle every single day." This grateful, appreciative attitude towards the body is found throughout Jewish tradition. Take, for instance, the ecstatic outcry from Psalm 139. "I praise you, for I am awesomely, wonderfully made. Your handiwork is marvelous. Odecha al ki noraot nifleti, niflaim ma'asecha." Or take this remarkable statement in Tractate Ta'anit from the Talmud. Rabbi Elazar said we should always see ourselves as if holiness resided within our intestines. In her last book of poems, renowned poet May Sarton offers reflections and revelations drawn from her experience of growing older. The volume, called Coming into 80, is a collection of what we might call wisdom poetry. It speaks to people of all ages. One short poem entitled Friend or Enemy teaches some of the deepest Torah I have ever read. Here it is. "I can look at my body as an old friend who needs my help, or an enemy who frustrates me in every way with its frailty and inability to cope. Old friend, I shall try to be of comfort to you to the end." As Asher Yatzar views the human body with wonder, appreciation, and gratitude, the poet sets forth a view of the aging body that is marked by tenderness, compassion, and forgiveness. One might even say by love. Each work in its own way presents a countercultural perspective that challenges the message we receive from the secular world, that beauty resides only in the youthful and perfect body. 3 pieces of Jewish wisdom to carry with us when the Spanish Inquisition comes to call. 1, we are not alone. All of us are dealing with something. Treat those around you gently with empathy and compassion. 2, use adversity as an opportunity for reflection. Do what you can to learn, grow, and find meaning. And 3, cherish your body. Appreciate its capacities, even when they are limited. Treat it with tenderness and love till the end. Here's an image to take us into the new year. Joni Mitchell, with her white braids and her snazzy blue beret, surrounded and supported by friends, singing her heart out at the Newport Folk Festival. The song was called A Case of You. Maybe you remember it. "Oh, you're in my blood like holy wine. You taste so bitter and so sweet. Oh, I could drink a case of you, darling, and I would still be on my feet. Oh, I would still be on my feet." She sang those lines and the audience went wild because Joni wasn't literally on her feet. She was sitting down, which was all she could manage in that moment. Life had knocked her off her feet, but there she was, dancing in her chair, strong, resilient, full of spirit, still bringing her gifts to the world in the best way she could. She heard the audience cheering her on, and she smiled her unforgettable smile, knowing they were celebrating her hard journey back from the brink of death. At that moment, she embodied Abraham's words, our ancient Jewish response to a challenging call. Hineni, here I am, I'm still here. Long may she live, this woman of valor. Long may she inspire us to face the bitter with the sweet, to listen to new music and learn how to dance, to do our best with what we have, whatever life may bring our way. And so may each of us find a way to stand up to life and say, Hineni, here I am, ready to do what I have to do. Shana Tova.